We've been talking about it this hour. The Supreme Court's decision on Trump v. Anderson addressed the former president's eligibility for this presidential ballot, but certainly left open the possibility for Congress to act on the insurrection clause in the future. So now we're joined by Jessica Smith, a constitutional law attorney. So you and I were just talking in the break a little bit about what the court wants Congress to do or not do. How would you frame that now after what we read today?
Well, the majority, the 5 justices who agreed on that piece, want Congress to do something. It's unclear exactly what, but what they did say is that Section 3 is essentially meaningless unless and until Congress passes some sort of legislation, either declaring a process or potentially determining that somebody has in fact committed insurrection. Whatever it might be, they want Congress to do something before the courts will do anything. So
why is Section 3 there if it is just dormant?
That's what the petitioners, the plaintiffs, were arguing. They said Section 3 is there. Much of the 14th Amendment is self-executing. We have other provisions of Section 14 that the states enforce all of the time. And so why would this be any different? And what the majority said is, well, there's some language in there that suggests that Congress needs to be able to act before they can do something. They also looked to the lack of precedent following this, the adoption of Section 3, and said, well, it's very unclear what was intended. There was very little precedent. There was one case, a handful of different commentators contemporaneous at the time. But at the end of the day, they said Congress has to do something, and now that's the law.
And that's, I think, where a lot of people say, oh, if it's up to Congress, when's that going to happen? What is the big difference between Congress and states making this decision?
Well, Congress at least is going to be federal. So you're going to have a unanimous, uniform answer. Whether you agree with that answer or not, it's going to be the same answer in all states. And part of what the majority was concerned about was the patchwork of results that might happen if you let the different states answer the question differently. And so that would be the main difference between a state-based approach.
Already.
Yes, absolutely. You have 3 states who've weighed in. You have other states that are kind of considering weighing in, and so then you could potentially have a result where former President Trump's not on the ballot in Colorado, but he's on the ballot in 47 other states, and you have a question about delegates and things like that. So it does become complicated.
It seemed clear in the oral arguments that this was going to be a result, if it wasn't 9-0, but it was going to be a strong result in this direction. The Anderson side never really seemed to get its footing in front of the court for those who listened to the oral arguments that day.
It definitely was a very active bench. It's always very active, but it was active in a way that I think was somewhat surprising for folks who were hoping for a good result for the Anderson plaintiffs. And what was surprising was that even what you would say left-leaning justices seemed critical and skeptical of a lot of the positions, most notably whether or not states could do something. And that's why we saw the result we did today, which was that 9-0 unanimous decision, at least as to the judgment. Now remember, there are some dissents on whether or not Congress needs to do something, but everybody agreed the states can't.
So this is your expertise, and you've educated us so much in the past, and you've come out and talked about constitutional law, which is Norma Anderson is saying she's glad at least people understand the 14th Amendment a little bit better. Do you see it the same way, that way?
Absolutely. I think the Constitution is the bedrock of our entire society, and we end up throwing around these big concepts oftentimes in very small circles. And so you have this idea that you have a lot of very academic intellectuals having these conversations, and that we have regular folks who are interested in these constitutional questions, I think increases civic engagement. And at the end of the day, really that's what we want, is civic engagement.
Well, we could talk about it for hours, but that's the beauty of television. We can solve everything in just 3 or 4 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Jessica, it's great to see you. Thanks for helping explain it. It's always complicated. Constitutional law, the Supreme Court. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.